Thank you everyone for sticking it out for this long and for being here. It's much appreciated. I've set this out as like a journey, so it's like I'll be telling you a little story. There's no statistics or particular research in there, so hopefully it's quite light for the end of the session. So you can see from there that I'm an anaesthetic specialty doctor. I've been at Barnsley just over 5 years now, and have these other roles, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about as we go through, because it's relevant to the presentation. But first, a little bit about Barnsley. It's not a massive hospital. It's approximately 500 bed, your typical district general hospital, serving both paediatric and adult populations. It was built in the 70s, which has some good features and some not quite so good. But it serves a population of about 250,000 people in Barnsley. English is the first language, Polish is the second in the region, and Chinese is the third. So we get quite a lot of patients that come in needing interpreters, just so that you can see it's quite a diverse population. It is an old mining town, so we get an awful lot of the elderly, predominantly male population, that come in with really quite severe chest problems and associated issues with that. So I've just nicked the little schematic from the hospital and put a dirty great big blue arrow on it, showing where our sim lab is. The relevance of this is that Barnsley's sim lab is a fairly new endeavour. In the room where we are currently, there used to be the medical illustration and photography people about 3 years ago, and there was zero equipment. We had lots of equipment in a building separate from the hospital, in the medical education building where they did task training, etc. But no specific sim in there other than your mandatory BLS training. So when this became available, the current sim lead at the time, Jane Axey, who's now on maternity leave, so you're looking at the sim lead for Barnsley, no pressure, scooped on this because she saw the benefit of using it for surgery in theatres and also for the ED, which, as you can see, it's located pretty near the orange zone, which is where the surgical part of the building is, and the red zone, which is where the emergency department is. So it's relatively nicely situated logistically to get from one place to another for the in-situs. Just a little picture of our sim room and our debrief room. The picture on the left, the gentleman with the white shirt, is Drew. He was one of our ED simulation fellows last year. I think I might be leaning on him quite heavily as he's still in Barnsley now that Jane's off on mat leave. And the candidates that you can see standing there dressed in that rather fetching green colour are the medical students that all have to wear that colour so we can distinguish them from the rest of everybody. I feel quite sorry for them, it's not very flattering. And the debrief room next door with a video link, and just your average size table. We don't have a full booking calendar at the moment, we're getting there. So it's used for other types of teaching as well, just to get people used to where we are and what we do and into the environment. So I thought I'd better tell you a little bit about me. I wear quite a few hats. The first one I've mentioned, I'm an anaesthetic specialty doctor. I've been at Barnsley just over 5 years. I've been one of the simulation leads for about 18 months. There are 3 of us. The other lady I haven't mentioned yet, but shall now. She's a senior physiotherapist that works primarily on the intensive care unit, but also does a lot of work on our respiratory wards. And so it's a really good multidisciplinary team mix on the sim board as well, which I think really helps us in designing our packages. And I've also been a SAS teaching fellow for 8 months. I don't suppose anybody's ever heard of those. Has anyone? No? I'm not surprised because it's a brand new thing. It's an HEE initiative that we could pick any topic we wanted for a year, just one PA a week to attribute to this. And I've put mine doing return to work programmes using sim and mocking up and on-call, which is why it's relevant for here. I'm president of the South Yorkshire Medico Legal Society, so I juggle quite a few hats. So please indulge me for a second while I show you what I do to decompress. That's my hobby. this is what gets me out of the way, clears my headspace, because it's a hobby that will kill me if I don't focus. So that's quite an incentive there to do that. So I'm sorry, but please, I couldn't resist. Back to Sim. So why in situ? Why main theatres? And why did I specifically pick the major hemorrhage protocol one to talk to you about today? So main theatres, I think, is the easiest question to answer. I'm an anaesthetist. That's my sort of home environment. I'm comfortable in there, and I could more easily see gaps that I thought needed filling. Again, the in situ kind of comes on from there. I think it's more important, if you can, to involve the whole team in a multidisciplinary environment, and to get them to come out and into the Sim Lab is a more logistically different challenge. The major hemorrhage protocol one I've picked is because it was the thing that gave me some really good, some really good, surprising, super quick results that I wasn't expecting. So it's a new major hemorrhage protocol. I've got a copy of it that I'm going to show you next. It's incredibly wordy. And we had a new blood bank based educator who was completely naive to theatres, had never been there, had no concept of even where they were, never mind how they worked. And as was being discussed by many people here, there's a real increased value of testing out protocols and systems by doing them in situ. So the big blue arrow there is pointing out where the main theatres are. And this is the protocol. It's quite intense to try and find what you need from there. Yes, you start at the top and you work your way down, but it's not amazingly obvious. So one of the things that came out of this is that this needs to be looked at and put into a more readable and approachable system. The timings became really important while we were there, and I've got some pictures here that will show you exactly what we did. The key timings there that we're looking at are the emergency ONEG cells provision as the major hemorrhage protocol of 5 minutes, and group specific being 20. We found that it was taking 20 minutes to get from main theatres to a place that was just one floor up and back again with the O negative emergency blood. Completely unacceptable. The effect on patient safety there could be huge. And morbidity and mortality were very definitely potentially going to be affected. Overall, we found that people cooperated really well. The simulation went great. Newer staff just weren't aware of their roles, which initiated a whole new programme of staff training. And they have a barcode system upon blood bank to physically let them into the lab space so that they can liaise with the agents, and some of those were out of date. So it's highlighted all sorts of little systems. This is what we set up. We tried to make it as realistic as possible. The person in the flowery top on the bottom is yours truly. The surgeon didn't turn up for the day, so I had to improvise and be the surgeon, which ended up being quite a good thing to do, because it meant that I could lead the scenario and push it in the direction that I wanted. So for future reference, that was a learning point for me. It's something that I will continue on doing. So, as I said, we found it was taking between 15 and 20 minutes to go and collect this blood from the patient. And we sat in exactly that position for 15 to 20 minutes. Can you imagine? The tedium. And I've thought, shall I push this forward? Shall I not? No, I didn't bother. The build-up of the tension and the anxiety, the anaesthetist looking at the monitors saying, this isn't working, that isn't working, we need the blood, we need this. And it all built in and added to the tension. The debrief afterwards, somebody said, we're just round the corner at the back of theatres that in our CSSD, there used to be a doorway that we could get through up there onto the corridor that's right next to the blood bank. I wonder if we can do that again. The very next 2-hour period was incredible. Telephone conversations, emails, the whole system was changed. Every single person that works in theatre now, and it's on the mandatory induction pack for any new people working in theatre, have got access through CSSD to blood bank. That cuts out the 5 minutes walking in one direction to come 5 minutes back in the other direction. So simple. Such a tiny change that without doing it in situ, nobody would have ever noticed. through the emails, I had an email came down to me from the medical director and also the deputy medical director. And at first I thought, oh my goodness, what on earth have I done? But luckily it wasn't. They were saying that they thought that there was some real value in what we were doing, and could I go ahead and talk to the patient safety group, which I have done, and they're going to support us even more with our simulation programme now. So I'm really happy to say that this happy chance put us completely on the map in Barnsley and made our in-situ stuff is going to be even more valuable in future. This is a little bit of the feedback that we got, as everyone else has done. We all collect our feedback at the end. And generally, like I say, it was good. They thought it was a really valuable experience, was given at the right pace, which surprised me considering the amount of time we were stood around literally drumming our fingers, and that it was of a sensible length and that things seemed to come together really well. Some free text comments, which I think is the best part of a feedback form. I think you gain an awful lot more to help you evolve in making future scenarios from this. A lot of people were saying it made them better practiced in their own role, and the thing there about being new to the department, that also is really good because they were given a role and they felt more integrated into the team as a whole. Again, which helping with the flattening of hierarchy is a really good thing to be doing. They said they learned that you can only use blood giving sets for 4 units of blood. This was a change in our blood bank protocol. That there's no shame in asking to get the policy off the wall, as we've been talking. High stress situations, why try and recall it? Why not have the information there in front of you and a dedicated person reading it? And the whole team learned about checking the relevant paperwork and making sure everybody's barcodes are in date. So what next? I've been asked to do more sessions for main theatres and upstairs in our day theatres and endoscopy units. Ophthalmology have specifically requested in-situ teaching, which will help me to look at their new minor ops suite, which is something that hasn't been tested out. I'm setting up a return to work course, which I've already told you about, which would be for internal and external candidates. And of course, I'll be doing some more flying. Thank you.